To call to order the October 9th, 2024 City Council meeting. Tonight I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and Council Members Albrecht, Bazagian, and Shapiro, as well as our city staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and turn it in to our city clerk, who's sitting right here. Tonight I am joined by Girl Scout Troop 3556, who is here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much for being here, girls, and for the amazing questions you asked me before the meeting. Turn it over to you.
Good evening. May I please have your attention for our flag ceremony? Please stand for the presentation of our colors. Color Guard, attention. Color Guard, advance. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, present the colors. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in singing America the Beautiful. How beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy hood with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, salute the colors. Color Guard, dismissed.
Council, if the council could stand behind the color guards, that would be great. Ready? Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
David
Second.
and Peter, thank you. We had closed session earlier this evening. Matt, do you have a report on closed session?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The council met in closed session to consider one item of anticipated litigation related to facts and circumstances that may result in litigation, but which the city believes are not yet known to potential plaintiff or plaintiffs, provided direction to staff and council, and took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any council announcements? Peter?
Sure. I'll announce that there's several things to announce. I won't jump into all of them, but I'll start with this one. Poppy Bank is having its ribbon cutting and grand opening on Tuesday, the 15th at noon. Come join us. Thank you.
Thank you. James?
Just want to announce that our annual Pumpkin Festival is going to be held October 20th from 10 to 5 at Juan de Anza Park, and you can buy your tickets online now.
Thank you. David?
Thank you very much. First, I wanted to congratulate staff on an amazing job, and our especially Erica and our entire recreation department on the grand reopening of Brandon's Village. And if you haven't been there, it is amazing. It's an all-inclusive playground and play area that is tremendous. It's really proud of what we've done. So thank you to everybody. Secondly, a great job on the Something Yellow 5K collaboration. Something Yellow Foundation for Childhood Cancer and our city combined and had their first ever 5K, and hopefully that'll continue. It was a great event. On October 14th at 6 o'clock, I'm looking to our city clerk and James, nobody. At Founders Hall, the Mayor's Youth Council will be hosting a voter information night. So come out, anybody, teenagers, adults, come out and learn about the elections upcoming. And last but not least, our very own city is having a ribbon cutting event on Wednesday, October 23rd at 3 p.m. The City of Calabasas Green Street Project, which is north on Las Virgenes Road, and it's a wonderful project. Look on our city site to get more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. Just about all of my announcements were mentioned except one, and that is our tennis courts. Our community service director and their team have done an amazing job making them look like U.S. Open quality. Couldn't look better. So thank you very, very much. And those that use it will appreciate it.
Thank you. And I just wanted to also acknowledge our community services team for all of the incredible work that's been done. We just officially also opened De Anza Park Playground. So we've opened 9 parks in the last, this marks the 9th park project completed and opened within the past 10 months. So it's quite a huge accomplishment. So amazing work on that. So thank you so much. And if there are not any other announcements, we will move on to oral communication, public comments. I do have a speaker card of someone who would like to speak on a non-agenda item. First card is Mark Levinson.
Thank you. Mark Levinson. I live in Los Angeles. I'm the immediate past chair of the Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to make 2 announcements and 1 introduction. Peter stole one of my announcements. The Poppy Bank is opening. We're having a grand opening Tuesday. It's their first bank in this area, and we're very happy they chose Calabasas to open that branch. My next announcement is Thursday we're having our luncheon, and it is hosted by and sponsored by Elevated Healing Treatment Centers. So if you're free, please come, notify the chamber. And most of all, I'd like to introduce Amir, who is the president of Mathnasium. It's a new business in town. They have 4 facilities, and again, we welcome them to Calabasas. And she is going to speak a little bit about it. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Amira Megani. I'm the new owner of Mathnasium of Calabasas. I wanted to say thank you so much to the city for welcoming me here and giving me time to introduce myself. As mentioned, I'm the new owner of Mathnasium of Calabasas, but longtime owner of Mathnasium of Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks, Granada Hills, and now Calabasas. Wow. I went to school in West Hills. My parents owned a business in the city of Calabasas, so it's clearly in my blood. Mathnasium, a little bit about Mathnasium. We're a math-only learning center helping kids in K through 12. We assist the parents who come to us who have kiddos who are in need of math help, whether it's enrichment or foundational. We also partner with schools in the Las Virgenes Unified School District and other school districts to bring our program to the schools. So I just wanted to say good evening and thank you so much for welcoming me here. Mathnasium of Calabasas is located in the Erewhon Shopping Plaza near Jersey Mike's. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much and welcome to Calabasas. Thank you. I'm going to move on to consent items. Is there any items that any of my colleagues would wish to pull?
Yes, item 3, just for a couple quick questions.
Item 6 for some comments.
Okay, let's go to item 3 first.
Thank you very much. I'm sure these are very quick, easy answers, but just for the public. This is on the contract for the bike lane striping project along primarily Las Virgenes Road, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I was asking the timeline.
It's
I'm
along
sorry?
Lost Hills and Nicole Road.
Okay. And Lost Hills
And Las
Interchange.
Virgenes, yeah.
Yes. My mistake. And the question being the timeline for construction, if you know it now. I was looking, I didn't necessarily see that yet.
No, we don't know that right now. What would you know the days? We'll give you the days of construction that we propose, but we don't have a start date yet.
Yes, but our permit with Caltrans expires in December. So the plan is to have all work to be completed before that permit expires. So it should be done by the end of the calendar year.
Fantastic. And as usual, when we do construction projects, that'll keep in mind, especially in that area, school hours, of course, right?
Correct.
And
all of that is worked into our specifications.
Perfect. And the cost of the approximately $258,000 is being, if I read correctly in the report, AQMD and Metro, it's not using our general funds for this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And any future grants that we can apply for things like this, I'm all for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 6.
Yes, this is Proposition 36, and I just wanted to point out that this is the only measure on the ballot which both the League of California Cities and the California Contract Cities Association have endorsed enthusiastically. And I would encourage the council to vote yes. This will help restore some of the penalties for criminal recidivists, but it also provides for additional funding and opportunities for drug treatment for addicts who are committing the crimes largely to support their addiction. So it's balanced, and it's got a broad base of support throughout California, and that's why I felt comfortable asking for it to be placed on the agenda. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add my strong support for Proposition 36 as well. Before we take a vote, I do have, on the consent items, I do have one speaker card on item number 4. Michael Harrison.
Thank you, and good evening, council members, mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem. This is about the design at the Commons, the revised design at the Commons, which I think is much better than before, no question about it. The style and shape of Building A are much better, and there's no housing above the retail in the center of the parking lot, which was probably unrentable anyway, and there's no underground parking, which was probably going to be a security issue. But the Commons is losing over 100 parking spaces and gaining even more retail space in the new plan. So it's still underparked, as a matter of fact, maybe not legally. And Building A is still 8 stories tall, the tallest building between Warner Center and Oxnard. And by comparison, the Caruso apartments at the Americana in Glendale are only 5 stories tall. And Glendale is a much bigger city. It has 170,000 more people than Calabasas. It's 9 times bigger. So I don't know why we are stuck with this oversized gray tower. Because the Commons was put in that affordable overlay zone, we get a grand total of 4 affordable units located next to the trash area at the bottom and the back facing the driveway and the cement wall, which to me is really sad. I can't imagine that's what the city wanted or expected, 4 affordable units, and then we get stuck with an 8-story building. We were never told how many extra units each building would get being put into the overlay zone, even though I repeatedly asked for it at Planning Commission meetings. And now, as you're going to see on item 9, and I'm going to speak about that, the staff is asking for more autonomy. I wish that the staff would contact Caruso and see if they can take 2 or 3 stories off of Building A, change the color to make it more compatible, and please add more affordable units than 4 units. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on the consent calendar? May I have a motion to approve the consent?
I'd like to make a couple comments in light of what Michael Harrison said. I did have a couple comments.
Okay.
First of all, Michael, I appreciate your comments as a member of the Planning Commission. I know you reviewed this.
Sorry, James, just since, Michael, do you want to address, I'm going to recognize you as a public speaker, but as a planning commissioner, because you mentioned that you were on Planning Commission in your comments. Okay.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for having gone through this project very carefully. I think overall what we're being presented with is a better project. It's less intense, as Michael noted. I think we're getting a much better project because of many features, but among them, the no subterranean parking, no housing above the island feature of the parking lot. I think the parking in the commons, in my opinion, is adequate. I know that sometimes it's hard to find a space, but in general, compared to other commercial parking lots, it's very reasonable in my opinion. Even though you might not get to park exactly where you want, there is parking there. The height of the building is tall, but the way it's situated is a lot different than some of the other ones that were compared here, like the Americana. It's right sitting in the middle, and it can be seen from all sides. The height of the proposed apartment building is up against a mountain facade and is not quite as obtrusive in its height based on that. You can only see it basically from one side and one angle. So, I mean, is this an ideal situation that we're getting less affordable housing? Is it ideal that we're building out the commons? Probably not, but in comparison to what could have been there and what was there, I think this is a much better proposal in front of us, and that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments before we vote?
As long as it's been covered, I'd just like to add one more thing to the response on the parking, which is that the movie theaters are being removed from the commons.
Or just make sure you're not responding to
I am not. I'm responding to what's in front of us here.
Okay.
Well, I am responding to the comment that was given to us here, but it was given to us as a comment on this item.
No, but we can't respond to the public.
We're responding to an agendized item number 4. Yes,
Okay.
we can. And simply my response to that is that the movie theaters have been removed from the program, and they were the largest user of parking spaces in that particular area. So even though there are 100 less parking spaces than there currently are now, the need for parking has decreased by more than 100. So I think we're going to find that the Commons is equally well parked today as it will be, or equally well parked at the end of this project as it would be today. Because of that and so many other considerations, I am in favor of item number 4.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
No long comments. I've discussed this with staff previously to get answers to all the questions I had. I would just move the consent calendar at this point.
Great.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, yes.
Great, thank you. Now we're moving on to new business. Our next item is approval of resolution number 2024-1930, terminating the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center Joint Powers Agreement to complete the land transfer from Agora Hills to Calabasas for the community center. Our city attorney will present the report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Brief report on this one. So as the council is very much aware, back in 1996 and 1997, the city entered into a joint powers agreement with the city of Agora Hills to acquire, construct, and then operate the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center as a joint project. Many years later, the Agora Hills looked to exit the joint project, and back in November 2022, the city's entered into a ground lease by which Calabasas leased Agora Hills' half interest in the community center, and then it reopened in March of the following year, and the city now runs the Calabasas Community Center under that lease, and this continues the last piece of that final land transfer deal as was approved in May of this year. And the two cities agreed to transfer Agora Hills' half interest in the land to Calabasas in return for Calabasas assuming the pension debt of the former Joint Powers Agency, which was done through PERS contract amendments approved in June, which I'll note on that front, we saved $1 million because of being able to assume the PERS debt rather than pay it off in full, which was helpful for the overall budget, allowing a better operation. And now the last step comes to the council, which is terminating the Joint Powers Authority, is the last step of the land transfer. It is on our agenda tonight and will be on the next Agora Hills agenda, assuming it's approved tonight. And then staff will execute the completion of the land transfer. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any council comments?
Well, having served on the board since the beginning, it's a momentous occasion. I did have a couple questions I had asked staff, but I asked staff because and I asked Kendon because I wanted the public to know I was going to, mention them here again. So Kendon, I know, and Matthew, when is the final transfer? When do we expect to record the deed?
We don't have the exact recording date estimated yet. We're waiting for a couple signatures from Agora and from the county.
But are we talking about a matter of a couple months, maybe?
Within the year, for sure.
Within the year, okay. The other comment I would have is I think we should do something.
Oh, we will.
Thanking, just something ministerial over at the community center, maybe inviting the Agora Council and, cutting. I don't know if it's a ribbon cutting or what it is, but it is transferring formally, and it'd be nice to have, some commemoration.
Absolutely. This is the legal stage of it. Staff is planning a formal acknowledgement of the occasion. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay. Now, this is great, and thanks to everybody for all the hard work. And I think that's a great idea, James. We could do it and put in our new center court logo that day.
Yeah, this is really an amazing to see it on the calendar, the agenda tonight. I think back when I saw it the first time and knew many of the people that were on the joint powers, and it was dark days for the community center. Dark because it didn't have much hope attached to it, and there were so many people that kept it alive. James, yourself included. Peter, I think you served on it. We can go down the list. David, you served on it for a while. I know Lucy Martin. I can go on and on and on. They all need to be congratulated and thanked because it's just leaving a candle flickering, but it didn't die out. So here we are. So thanks to everybody.
Peter?
Yeah, I'll just have to say, too, thank you to the city of Agora Hills for helping make this happen. I know it's been a long time coming, but very excited to have this asset open and available to our community. And I want to give a big thank you to our Community Services Department for their fabulous programming. I was just there on Sunday. The community center is beautiful. It's thriving. There's people there utilizing it. It's good to see it alive again. So thank you, Erica, and your entire team.
I was just going to echo what Peter said. It's so nice to see people really back and enjoying this center. It was missed for so many years, and I know the public's very appreciative to have it back. So thank you to everyone on our city council and our staff who worked so hard to make this happen. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I heard a lot of seconds, so.
Who was the?
Someone pick. Second.
Go alphabetical.
Okay. Fine. I guess James made the motion.
Yeah, sorry.
And who? David seconded. Okay, he served 14 years, so he can have the second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 8, memorandum of understanding between Calabasas and Hidden Hills for the annexation of Craftsman's Corner and for reciprocal library access. Our city attorney will present the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On this one, we have also a brief report. So here, the two cities, Calabasas and Hidden Hills, have long been pursuing a joint annexation of the Craftsman's Corner area, the north side of Parkway Calabasas off the 101. That was stalled for some years with some challenges with the county. We are back in a really strong partnership with the county, and we're moving forward. And now we are also moving forward in partnership with the city of Hidden Hills. There we are looking at a library services MOU, 3 basic terms: indefinite reciprocal library access for Hidden Hills and Calabasas residents to each access the library of the other on equal terms as if they are a resident in the other city. So that includes equal terms access to library cards, online catalogs, interlibrary loans, study rooms, library programs and events, and the ability to rent multipurpose or library or study rooms on the same terms and conditions. And noting, of course, that Hidden Hills is presently in transition in its library services, that will all apply at such times as Hidden Hills reestablishes library services for its residents. And in second, Hidden Hills will approve the necessary documents to approve the Craftsman's Corner annexation as previously negotiated. And third, Calabasas will transfer $538,850 in existing unspent library funds to Hidden Hills to be used for library purposes. With that, the deal would then facilitate the reciprocal library services, that transfer of library funds, and the approval of the Craftsman's Corner annexation. Available for any questions. And I'll note Hidden Hills Mayor Nico Gold is present.
Yes, and I'm going to call upon her as soon as I hear from our council. Are there any council comments? James?
I did want to say I'm very pleased with this agreement. I think it's a fair agreement, and I think that the public should know this Craftsman's Corner was slated to be part of the city prior to incorporation, and it's been about 40 years that we've been pursuing this. So this is a huge accomplishment and something we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
And I just want to share with the public that the $538,850 that's being sent back to the city of Hidden Hills is for library funds that the city of Hidden Hills contributed to the city of Calabasas over the years that was not spent on LVUSD digital material and things like that. So it's exciting to be able to hand that back to them, and we're looking forward to seeing what they do with those funds.
Ed?
Having lived in Calabasas over 30 years, I've always admired that city. Now knowing that we're having a wonderful partnership, it feels like a new beginning for us. It seems only normal and logical that two cities that share a border would be best of friends, protect each other, and support each other. I'm so excited that this is going to happen, and I know we're going to do a lot of things together and do it and enjoy doing it and be successful at it. So, thank you.
David?
Well, I'm glad this item is here, and I'm looking at this. We have item 7, item 8, two amazing conclusions to a lot of years of hard work and collaboration going forward with our neighboring cities and our friends. So looking forward to great things ahead and working together and having a fantastic future. And I'm glad this came to fruition. Thank you.
And I'm also glad it's come to fruition. A lot of after-hour calls and meetings to make it happen, but I'm glad that everyone, both cities, feel that they're getting the best for their cities and a partnership. So I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to the annexation and looking forward to your future library as well. So with that, I'm going to call Nico Gold, Mayor of Hidden Hills, up to speak.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I stand before you tonight to reaffirm the strong partnership between our two cities. It has been a true pleasure for our staff and council to collaborate with yours, and we eagerly anticipate other opportunities that may lie ahead. The library and annexation will be presented at our upcoming council meeting on October 15th, and we are excited to welcome Mayor Pro Tem Kraut to join us that night. In closing, I'd like to emphasize the vital role public libraries play as equalizers within our communities. They significantly enhance the quality of life for all our residents and serve as key resources for education and connection. The collaboration between our neighboring cities exemplifies the strength of our relationships, and I look forward to exploring many more avenues of cooperation that will benefit us all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nico, I just wanted to confirm, is your meeting's next Monday, right?
Actually, it's on Tuesday.
Oh.
Because of the holiday. So it's on Tuesday on the 15th.
Oh.
Yes.
I said
usually it's on a Monday, you're correct.
I couldn't go on Monday because we're having our community voter night.
Yeah,
so.
but we had to move it because of the holidays. So it's on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m.
If it's on Tuesday, the mayor
we'll figure
might
that. We'll
attend.
figure that out.
We
We'll
will
figure
have
so
somebody
much.
there.
I'm
Someone will
very
be there.
excited. Thank
Someone
you
will
all.
be there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nico. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ed and James. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, and thanks, Aniko, for being here tonight. Yeah. Okay. Now we're moving on to item number 9, which is our public hearing, where we're going to receive comments on the draft application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing Grant Program. Our city planner, Jacqueline Rackerby, will present the report, and she's also joined by our Community Development Director, Michael Klein.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight I will be presenting on the city's draft grant application for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Pro-Housing Grant Program. We did receive 4 letters of public correspondence for this item, which have been distributed to the council members ahead of the meeting. So just as a little bit of background, in August of 2024, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development had released a Notice of Funding Opportunity, NOFO, for the fiscal year 2024 Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing Pro-Housing Grant Program. The program appropriates $100 million in competitive grant funding for identification and removal of barriers to affordable housing production or preservation. City, county, and state governments, as well as other multi-jurisdictional entities, are eligible. The minimum award amount per community is $1 million, and the maximum award amount is $7 million, with a maximum amount of 30 awards total. So on this map, you can see the prior awardees from last year. The first round of the grant program took place in 2023. As you can see on the map, there are 175 jurisdictions nationwide that applied for the grant, but these 21 jurisdictions shown here were awarded funding. So some of these are larger jurisdictions, including the state of Hawaii, as well as LA County and Denver, Colorado. However, there are also some smaller jurisdictions that were awarded funding last year, including Arcata, California, up here, which has a population of 18,847. They were awarded $1 million, as well as Ketchum, Idaho, which has a population of 3,553. They were awarded $2.5 million. So we do not know how many applicants there will be this year, but up to 30 jurisdictions will be awarded the funding. As you can see from the map, any jurisdiction, large or small, is eligible for this competitive grant funding. So just as an overview of the grant program, priority is given to eligible applicants that are considered by HUD to be located in a priority geography. Calabasas is considered a priority geography according to HUD's methodology, as is most of the LA County region. HUD looks at many factors to determine priority geographies, primarily the affordable housing need being above a certain threshold for multiple different measures in comparison to other nationwide jurisdictions. The grant program lists key barriers to housing production and eligible activities to induce housing production. The city must identify applicable barriers to the production of market rate and affordable housing, and then we must identify which eligible activities the city is planning to pursue to overcome these barriers. All proposed activities pursuant to the grant must also further specific national objectives. So for the city's application, we have 3 main proposed activities. First, establishment of objective design standards. Second, creation of an adaptive reuse ordinance. And third, preparation of the 2030 to 2050 general plan update. The city is requesting $2.2 million in grant funding for these activities, recognizing that the total awarded amount could be less than the total amount requested. So this table is basically a summary of the grant program, and I want to mention, just to clarify on this slide, the first column here, the second column, and the third column, these are all copy and pasted from HUD. So we didn't choose the wording of these paragraphs, and some of this may not apply to us. Just as an example, the second paragraph here mentions things like floodplain management. So not everything within these paragraphs may apply. This is just how HUD words these specific paragraphs within the grant instructions. So the first column lists eligible barriers, second is eligible activities, and the last one is national objectives, again, all provided by HUD. So just to go in order here, the first column we have key barriers. The grant instructions provide a list of potential barriers, and the city must identify which of these potential barriers are applicable to us. And the 3 listed in the table are the ones we've identified. And while we recognize that there may be other barriers not listed here, these barriers must be able to be resolved using the eligible activities that the city is pursuing. Based on that knowledge, these are the key barriers that we're aiming to overcome. The next column lists eligible activities. Again, grant instructions provide us with a list of eligible activities, and the city must identify which of these activity categories we are pursuing in furtherance of removing the barriers mentioned in the first column. The third column lists the city activities that are being proposed within the eligible activities in the second column. All of these activities, which is creation of an adaptive reuse ordinance, creation of objective design standards, and the general plan update, will all still need to go through the full public hearing process for adoption. But if grant funding is secured, that would allow for a more robust and thorough community engagement process. The last column here is national objectives. So activities must be carried out pursuant to one of 3 specified national objectives, and we have identified 2 that are applicable to the city's activities. So just as an example, looking at the first row, one key barrier identified by the program is zoning and land use controls. An eligible activity to overcome this barrier includes promotion of adaptive reuse of vacant properties for housing development. So the city is proposing to create an adaptive reuse ordinance. And then this will further the national objective of benefiting low and moderate income persons by encouraging development of affordable housing. So we have to link a barrier to an eligible activity, to a specific city activity, to a national objective. And there are public participation requirements for this grant. The city is required to publish the draft pro-housing application online for public comment for a minimum of 15 days. And the draft grant application was published on the city's website September 23rd, 2024. The city must conduct at least one public hearing prior to submittal of the grant application. And grant applications must be submitted to HUD by October 15th, 2024, so next Tuesday. In regards to fiscal impact, there's no fiscal impact to the city that will occur as a result of this proposal because this is a pre-application step towards the filing of a federal grant application. If the city does receive a grant award from HUD, then potential fiscal impacts to the city will be determined and presented to the City Council as part of a future formal grant acceptance process. So staff recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing and receive comments on the city's draft application to the HUD Pro Housing Grant Program. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I'm going to now open the public hearing, but first, are there any council questions? Okay. Are there members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Yes, I have 2 cards. The first card is Michael Harrison, and the second will be Joe Choco.
Thank you, Mayor Lancho. I'm in favor of this item, but there's one component that concerns me, and that's it seems that the council is being asked to facilitate more affordable housing without community review, without planning commission review, without council review, and and again, I bring up the Commons Lane project because where we're getting a grand total of 4 affordable units facing trash bins and a cement wall, which had no design review, and we're still getting that oversized gray tower. I'm just concerned. I think that people want more input for real affordable housing, not just 4 units. I mean, I just think that's what the community wants. I don't think they're opposed to it. I think they just want some input at different levels. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michael. Joe?
Good evening. I'm Joe Chilko. I'm a Calabasas resident. I have 3 concerns I'm going to address tonight in addition to the written comments I sent you. All of them have to do with specifics of what's being proposed. I'm concerned that fire risk, demitigated by virtue of adhering to building material codes and evacuation traffic studies based on a model that cannot accurately predict actual emergency conditions, because not all emergencies are the same, are not going to offer Calabasas residents much protection. Are there objective design standards that can be applied to mitigate fire risk to the level that insurance companies will make the determination that the risk is significantly lower? In what other cities in LA County or California has this occurred? My next concern, I'm concerned that public participation is being sacrificed. There is another way to expedite the approval process and eliminate 2 meetings from it. This also presupposes there are objective design standards in place. The architectural review panel recommendations are not binding on the applicant. The members can review the design elements the applicant has submitted, and all the ARP members' comments would be forwarded with arguments for or against to the Planning Commission. Then the Planning Commission can review the application based on the objective design standards. All the Planning Commissioner's comments would be forwarded with arguments for or against to the City Council. This would leave the City Council as the deciding body with a public hearing for public input. Like the public, the ARP members and Planning Commissioners have the opportunity to comment at the public hearing. And lastly, I'm concerned that the objective design standards will lead to box ticking. Unfortunately, there's a lack of trust that city planning staff will make determinations that are in the residents' best interest. The Montessori daycare project proposed to be built within 50 feet of a freeway was approved by the Planning Commission because city planning staff deemed it met all requirements. This is an example of the perils of box ticking. The ready-made building plans offered to residents who lost homes in the Woolsey fire by city planning staff resulted in the construction of homes out of character with the architectural style of the community. In doing so, the city planning staff ignored one of the policies in the general plan. The dome on the Cambria Hotel is completely out of character with the architectural style of the area. It was approved by the CDD at the time. Then the developer lit the dome at night in violation of dark skies ordinance. This was remedied only because it was brought to the attention of Council Member Bazagian. So these are all concerns that I think a lot of people in Calabasas have. I get the fact that this is a public hearing and a grant, but you got to take residents' considerations and concerns into consideration.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Michael, for the public comments. Now I will turn back. There are no additional speaker cards. I'm now going to close the public hearing and open council deliberations. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut.
Yeah, thank you. Based on correspondence we've received and public comment that we've heard here tonight, I had a couple of questions. One, I know that as a council we've expressed the desire for an objective design standard, and the purpose of that, as I understand it, was so much of our code is unenforceable because it's a subjective decision, and when we have a project that's under the Housing Accountability Act, they have a lot more leeway, and we're unable to let's say enforce a clause that says minimize the amount of retaining walls because there's no quantity there. It's become unenforceable with affordable housing or any project that incorporates a percentage of affordable housing. So that was my desire to get into an objective design standard, was so that we would have something that's enforceable. I think this HUD grant is a great way of being able to fund such a project, and for that I'm leaning towards approving this and being in favor of it. But it does raise a couple of questions. One, it was brought up, I think, in some correspondence that an optional traditional pathway towards approval would still be allowed to a developer even if we had an objective design standards. Is that true? Is that how that works?
Nothing exists yet, and there are definitely different options available to the city, but one such option would be that if the city were to create objective design standards, it could be a very comprehensive set of requirements that are very clear, there's no subjective component to it, and a developer would have an opportunity or an option to pursue that pathway. And under most jurisdictions that we've looked at, objective design standards are a ministerial approval process. Again, they could be as limited as a one-page document I mean, technically right now we have objective standards in our development code, but they're not very robust. So there's an opportunity of creating very robust objective design standards. A developer would still have an option of pursuing the normal permitting process, which for some sites may or may not require the community development forums. All projects require story polls. They all require ARP review and planning commission review at a minimum. So to answer your question, they would always have the option to pursue a discretionary permit process as currently established by our municipal code. The objective design standards would be another tool or another option for them to pursue.
Okay, and again, I just want to emphasize that my desire to move towards an objective design standard was to create a set of rules that would more closely hold our developers accountable to following the general plan, the intent of the general plan, by laying out more strict requirements. Now, if we create this objective design standard and an applicant has the right to skip the objective design standard and go back to the old method of approval, and we're still under the Housing Accountability Act, we would have a hard time enforcing the subjective requirements that we still have on the books. And I see our city attorney is leaning towards his microphone, and I'd love to know what he has to say.
Absolutely. So yeah, there would be a risk there if we were to create objective design standards and maintain, I'll call it legacy code provisions, and those legacy code provisions and their present problems or challenges would still be challenges on the table. So if we were to develop stricter, narrower, but clear objective design standards, that could be defined as the sole path through which certain projects would go. And here, we'd have to look at the housing element, of course, as we develop those standards, but the city could replace the current legacy standards with objective standards or create two pathways.
So if instead of the two-pathway approach and instead of, per se, what we'll call an objective design standard, if we put our time and efforts into improving our development code to be numerical, and I'm just making this up, but I want to throw this out there. What if the maximum length of a retaining wall could be no more than 1/4 the total perimeter of the lot? You know, we would then have a number that we could enforce. It would no longer be the trouble that we've had with projects, which is that our development code is not specific. And I don't think it'd be 1/4. I think it'd be like 1/10 or 100th.
Yeah.
But forget my math here. But what I'm saying is what we need to do is go back to our development code and rewrite the portions that say minimize or reduce or keep low. And we need to give those numerical thresholds that we can enforce. So before I close out, two questions for our staff. One is, could this grant be used for the rewriting of the development code? Now, I understand the intent of this grant is to create a pathway that helps make housing available. And we are in favor of housing, of affordable housing here in the city of Calabasas. But we want to create the opportunity for that housing without destroying the character of this neighborhood.
It is possible. The one concern with using it to rewrite the development code is that the development code also includes everything else from institutional to commercial to other types of development. So the purpose of the objective design standards is very specific and unique to multifamily and mixed-use development. So it's much easier to link that activity to this particular grant, which is specific to housing. So I don't want to risk, not getting the grant because it's taking on a project that's much larger than just the housing component. And really, the other part of the objective design standards is that the goal is to quantify some of those architectural issues that the community cares about as well, and make those objective so that we can create a box that's more than just numerical, but one that is designed to fit the character of the community. And our goal and our intent is to do that with a lot of public engagement using, the goal would be to use these grant funds if we were awarded to embark on that endeavor.
Okay, and I know I said I had two questions, but your answer gives me a third question. I'm sorry. You mentioned if we can't use this easily towards the development code, how is it that we have the rewrite of the general plan incorporated into here? Are we only doing a portion of that, or how do you quantify that?
We haven't figured that part out yet because we're not at the point where we need to completely rewrite our general plan. Our goal is to at least have, if we were awarded this grant, to have the funding to be able to decide how robust we want to go. At a minimum, we're going to have to rewrite the housing element because that has to be rewritten every 8 years. So we know that's going to come up. This past go around, that was about $400,000.
Okay. And then my third question would be, if we take this grant, if we spend this money towards creation of an objective design standard and we get 75% done, and with the community feedback and the opinion of council, we decide that we don't want to implement this objective design standard or whatever, how does that affect the grant? Do we have to pay that back, or?
Well, the grant itself, typically they're reimbursable, so the city has to do the work first and then request reimbursement. I don't have the final answer, but arguably we would at least attempt to get reimbursed for whatever work we accomplished up to that point. Are we at risk of them not paying out that reimbursement? Yes, there is that risk.
And I'll chime in here with an answer to that one as well. When we were looking through the grant today, we can also, I believe, apply for an amendment after the fact to HUD. So if we decided we wanted to apply for something slightly different instead, once we got the funding, there is a process for that. I don't know what the exact process is, but we can contact HUD to amend our plan.
Okay, great. And I'll just finish by saying I'm in favor of pursuing this as a grant. I commend you for finding this, for putting forth the effort to apply for it. I am in favor of finding more affordable housing right here in the city of Calabasas. I'm just not in favor of sacrificing the character of our community to achieve it.
Thank you. David?
Thank you very much. And Peter, great comments. And thank you to the two speakers we had, Joe and Mike. I'm just going to comment on one item, and that's in the report. I am supportive of this, and thank you for finding this opportunity. Again, grants are a wonderful thing as long as they are used properly and as long as we have proper oversight as well. When I first joined the council, it was 2012. One of the first things I got to do was attend the ribbon cutting and dedication of the Canyon Creek units, which are low, dedicated 74 units, low, very low affordable units for 62 and over. And our city used out of it was the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, $1 million. And there were grants provided from all other agencies. It was a joint project, and it is by far and away our largest affordable unit project in our city. It is a good one. It was well done. It is something that I would hope we could aspire to do properly in the city. That's how I look at this type of grant or other grants. I think it gets our numbers where they should be. We're doing the right thing. It provides, whether it's seniors, whether it is first responders, whether it is city staff, whether it is teachers or students going to college. I think if there's a way to prioritize that, I'd love to see that done with these types of funds. So I am supportive of this, but that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, thank you. There certainly are a lot of moving parts in this when you look at it comprehensively, but I'm going to dwell on just one or 2 points. Some very good points have been made tonight, so I don't need to go into that. But the first point is the cost. The cost on the objective design standards, as I understand it, could be anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000. Lay on top of that the general plan update, which could be $500,000 to $1.5 million, maybe even more. Grants could satisfy that. Otherwise, we have to dip into the general fund. We've been talking about, the council has been bantering it around since the beginning of the year, very actively about having staff do more in the way of grants, not just in housing, but in a lot of areas. Our revenue is certainly not what it used to be, so grants would satisfy a lot of that. The other point I'd like to make is, yes, we've had a lot of letters and a lot of comments that have come in, and I want the public to know that we recognize it. They have concerns about environmental damage. They had concerns and comments about experiences that we've all seen, gridlock on the streets. We can't build new roads, egress, fire. When you convert mixed use, the additional population growth that may happen in that area. And I think it's vital, and we have done this as a council, we've done this over and over, and that is reach out to the public. The word transparency is something that is on the tip of our tongue, and it always has been. And I don't think anybody can accuse us of not being transparent. We go out of our way to be transparent. So I'm in favor of this, certainly in favor of the grants. I hope we can get it. I know there's a timeline. You had mentioned to me, I think it's 5 days or 6 days to get it out. But when we do receive it, I'd like to see us go out and do community workshops, do forums. There's been some comments made that we don't reach out by emails well enough, and that's a good comment that we received. Being a former homeowner president, I can appreciate reaching out to homeowner presidents, reaching out to, we can go down the list, but they can reach out also to other people. So that combination of getting input, I want the public to know that we are listening and on making the objective design standards. Yeah, we can make it very, very critical. We can include all those elements. So if they want a ministerial pathway, they got to pay the price as far as what we want to protect. And if they're going to go the standard route, then that'll take its course through the commission. And we've got a very good planning commission, and they do a very good job, and they'll vet it. So I'm completely supportive of this, and hope we can get it done. I know that batting average of getting it approved is not high. I'm not sure, maybe 1 in 4, you know, but I would put my money on it. So keep our fingers crossed. Let's go for it.
James?
Yes. My only concerns about this is any notion that this would promote development without lack of council review. And I did ask Michael a couple questions before, and I just, I want to make sure that the council retains the final authority with the community. There is one part that I'd like to, if the council agrees with it, to have staff rework a little bit. If you look on page 16, item number 3, lack of community support for new housing. Now, there are some comments in there that I think are a little unfair and paint the community in a pejorative light. It starts out, the first sentence is, the lack of community support for any new housing project is a significant barrier to the production of affordable housing units within the city of Calabasas. I think that's way too broad. I think that I actually don't think that's correct. I think there is lack of support for just unfettered growth and state mandates, but I don't think there's, when you look back on some of the projects, it was mentioned earlier, the Canyon Apartments, that was a unanimous council decision. I was on the council for all the public hearings leading up to it. There was never a single speaker in the public. There was never a single letter from the community. There was nothing in the newspaper, nothing opposing it. So I don't think that's fair to say the community always, or it doesn't support any new housing and focusing on affordable housing as the problem. I think the community, if anything, the reverse is true, that the kind of housing they support is not just more housing and more units, it's bringing affordable units to the community that people can actually have the hope of buying a house and having their children and grandchildren have houses too. So I don't know, the whole section here should be reworked, because I think I would hate for that to go into the record as being the city's position that our citizens hate any kind of housing, and especially affordable housing. I mean, it doesn't sound right to me, and I don't think it's accurate. So I would hope the council would support the rewording of that section to be less strident.
Do you have any more comments?
No.
Oh, okay. I was waiting. So I want to thank my colleagues for such good comments. I don't need to repeat all that has been said. I also just want to acknowledge that I really appreciated getting letters from the public because it really helped me have conversations with staff to understand this more and understand the intentions of the grant. As a council, we're always encouraging our staff to go out and seek grant funding to help offset costs. And I know there are still a lot of complexities regarding affordable housing, and the purpose of this grant is to be fiscally responsible as we're addressing these needs. I think that's a really important part of this. And also, we have a lot of things that we are required to do by state law, and this grant could help us cover those costs. So that's how I'm approaching it. I agree with what James said and what the public said about how our community views affordable housing. I don't see it in a negative way, but I understand that's not really like what the intention of the grant is doing. So I'm supportive of the grant for how it's going to help us accomplish things that we have to do anyways that will not dip into our budget. So I really applaud staff for going after this. And as always, when projects come forward, it's the council's intention to work with the public and engage them as we have done. So I just want to say thanks to the public for engaging on this, and thanks for staff for really seeking this. It's a large amount of money if it comes our way. So let's see, are there any additional discussion? David?
Just following up because I appreciate the comments and agree with James and everybody's comments. Is there any benefit to us in applying for this grant for putting that kind of language in there that we're discussing altering before we go ahead and alter it?
I will leave it as we have to make a case for the need for the money. So Jacqueline did an excellent job of researching prior grants that were awarded, and we try to look at other successful grants and the kind of language that they use. So that went into the overall thought process of how to write the application. And again, I do want to commend Jacqueline for the outstanding work on this. I mean, she had to develop over 40 pages of an application to get this in within only a few weeks.
Thank you. And we can tweak some of the language in that section if that helps, but we do still need to identify a barrier, but we can reword some of the sentences in there.
I'd be all for that. And again, I know we all thank you for this great work. We're all very interested in grants. This is a great opportunity. So I support that, tweaking it as well.
If there are no additional comments, is there a motion?
So moved.
David?
Seconded.
David and then Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, motion passes unanimously. I was asked just for a few-minute break, and then we'll finish up our meeting. So 5 minutes. Now we're back. Okay, now we are on future information agenda items. Direction to staff on development of the 2024 legislative platform, and our Deputy City Manager, Michael McConville, will present this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. So at the June 19th, 2024 City Council meeting, the City Council discussed the development first of its 2024 legislative platform. During that discussion, we were provided direction to return to one-on-one meetings individually with each of the council members to build out this legislative platform, really the city's first legislative platform. During these one-on-one meetings, council members were asked to consider really two things: what the document would be and how it would be used. And as the staff report lays out, there were some items that received majority support. There were some items that were proposed that did not receive support. And then there was an item or two that we did not get to that we're looking for some direction for tonight. So I'll go over the items with majority support first. Keeping the legislative platform at a high level was important to the majority. There was some attachments here, City of Agora Hills, that were very detailed. We did not receive, again, support from the council members to mirror that. The majority would want the document reviewed every 2 years, and that would be to coincide with the election cycle. We would proceed with the draft legislative platform really as is. There was some red line documents, revisions that you'll notice in the attachment, but unless there is additional comments tonight, that would proceed again in its draft form. And then finally, the last one receiving majority support was that the council believes that assignments to particular committees, those assignments and those individual council members were empowered to use their judgment to make an advocacy or a vote on an item without having to use the legislative platform. So you may know or may remember items coming up in the past where council members didn't feel comfortable voting or advocating on behalf of the city, but that was a resounding majority that stated that the trust and judgment was implied on that appointment to that commission. So moving on to 2 items that were discussed or proposed without majority support. The first item was specifying the purpose of a legislative platform, so perhaps having a preamble. The one listed here was to be used in a fair, reasonable, and rational manner that benefits all residents, all constituents, of Calabasas. Next one, this really is referring to the use on how to use the legislative platform. So there was a proposal to forward the league monthly position to each of the council members, and then from that email, or however the document was forwarded, have the individual council members request that those items be agendized for discussion on whether to not advocate for that bill or proposition. Moving on to the final item of direction that staff was looking for, this gets into how the document was used. So we've talked a little bit about what it would be composed of, but how would it be used? Really, when thinking about the legislative platform, we're looking to be efficient, both with staff time and timing of council meetings that sometimes can be 2 or in many cases more weeks out, depending on if the council is dark. So staff is really seeking council guidance on whether the city manager or mayor should formally express support or opposition to issues if it's listed in the legislative platform. What type of authority do you want to provide either, again, the city manager, mayor, to advocate, oppose, or support something without bringing it back to council, as long as it's in the legislative platform? And so with that, those are the items that staff is looking for direction on. Again, 2 main takeaways. What was the document going to look like, or what can the document look like, and 2, how will it be used? So with that, I'm available for questions, but really taking notes to amend the legislative platform as attached to the document.
Great, thank you. So let's open up for council discussion. I'll start with Ed.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I think we all are to finally have a legislative platform. It's in the early stages. I read it very thoroughly. I've also seen other legislative platforms. So I think we can grow it, widen it. I'm absolutely in favor. I'm not sure how my other council members feel about the mayor going ahead and approving or supporting an item on our own as a legislative platform item. The mayor is vital to represent the city and should be empowered to have that opportunity. And I think we should expand this in discussion about where we're going to go on other items for the platform. Because so many of us are on like Valley Economic Alliance or with the League or contract cities, and there's legislative items that we vote on, so I'm glad to be empowered to make a vote on that.
You know what I just realized? In order for this to go as smooth as possible. Do you want to ask like a question and then we can get the answer to you? Or?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you
So-
want to do that? Sorry, I know Ed just gave his
Excellent.
comments, but I think it'll go.
So
more
yeah,
smoothly.
I'd first like you to look at the attachment, the 2024 legislative platform, the draft, and see if there's any statements you'd like to add to support or opposition, or even policy statements that you'd like to revise. Now would be the time. Again, this is not a final adoption tonight. We'll take the comments and we'll provide it on consent at the following meeting.
This?
Correct.
Okay.
Just clarification before we do that, what we have in front of us is already the majority from your individual meetings?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to?
Just a quick question on this. Why is number 3 redlined out? And that's fiscal resiliency. It seems like it's a good thing, and it seems like our Economic Development Committee works on these things.
So the red lines were changes that were requested by council members during those one-on-one meetings.
Right. Is that something we're going to be discussing, or that's why I'm asking?
Well, yeah, if you're in support of that red line, the reason I put the red line in there is because it was changes to the document as presented to the one-on-one meeting. The red line is the change since that one-on-one meeting.
Okay, because I never saw this. Were we supposed to see the document before? I had discussions, I know, meeting, but
Yes,
not-
this document was presented during the one-on-one meetings.
Okay. Okay, and I understand that's number 3. My thought would be that's within the purview of the city manager anyway, so thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have comments to this document? Any changes? Yeah, go.
The document looks fine to me. I have no problem with it. Thank you. The only thing I'd keep in mind, there are 4 bullet points that seems like we all provided, I thought, unanimous, if not close to, keeping the legislative platform high level, review every 2 years, proceed with draft legislative platform, and liaison and voting authority. I am fully supportive that those are almost a preamble, I guess, if that would make sense, to this document, because those, to me, are the high-level things that we all agree on. We all trust each other, and we trust each other's judgment, unless there's something that council should talk about. So, thank you.
Okay, Peter?
I would say, in echoing what Councilmember Shapiro just said, the high-level points of review every 2 years and these other items here, I don't know that we have to have the, quote, high level in there, but at least the review every 2 years should be part of the document.
Yep.
So that as we have our legislative platform at our fingertips 2 years from now, we'll remember, oh yeah, it's time to go back and revisit that. The council member liaison and committee voting authority is what my understanding was that we have this for, and also as a tool to staff. I have no changes to suggest for what's here. I think it's good, it's succinct, and it really represents what I believe our city stands for. In the items that were mentioned without the majority support, the idea of a monthly position overview and council member agendizing bills, I think will get to be too cumbersome here. I would like to see staff track bills that will affect our city based on this. And, you know, if we need to, we can certainly offer our support. I know that we've just had one this evening, and we probably weren't tracking them well enough to do more than one. But with 3,000 bills going through the legislature every year, and the League of California Cities narrowing it down to 50, there's still way too many for us to be weighing in on each and every one here. So we really need to stick with, you know, the ones that are really going to affect our city. And so I'd be not in agreement with mirroring the League of California Cities advocacy policy. And as far as the comment lastly about the city manager or the mayor expressing an opinion based on the legislative platform, I think we need to leave that to the council members or mayor in their committees are free to use this platform to vote and to expeditiously move things forward. But if we're going to issue a statement from the city manager, it could be perceived as being the opinion of the city of Calabasas. So I would avoid that. If it's something that we need to take a stand on, it should come here, but we should keep those to a minimum.
James?
Couple things that are been discussed. First, I think the easiest way to handle the League of California Cities is they do come out with a monthly list of things they support, things they oppose, and what their positions are that affect municipal government. I think if you just provided that to the council and left it to the council members to say, yes, I'd like this on the agenda, and if you get 2 people or just a mayor, then it goes on the agenda. It's constantly changing, and every month there's even revisions. If, like, the bill's been amended and then it's a bill that they're in favor of then is amended in a negative way and they then oppose it. I mean, we have to keep up with that. So every month they do come out with a list. If we could get that list, that would be really helpful, because there's like a paragraph under each one as to what the bill's potential impacts are to cities. And they also do that for propositions as well. As far as the mayor, because we don't have a separately elected mayor, I'm reluctant to have the mayor be able to say or be able to issue a formal position without consulting the council. I think that the mayor is free to say, as the mayor, this is my position in my capacity as mayor, as an individual council member, mayor, whatever. We do that all the time. But I think to say, this is the city's position, I'm the mayor, I think it brings a different level of authority that that person should not necessarily have, regardless of who the mayor is. I mean, sometimes it'll be someone who is responsible and doesn't take positions that might be opposed by a majority. In the past, I can tell you, not the recent past, but in the distant past, we've had a couple mayors just go off and make public appearances and make it seem like it was the council's position, and then gets the city into a little trouble because they're not positions the majority would support. So I would not favor that. Or the city manager, quite frankly, because he's not an elected official. If he wants to go out and say, this is my position as a city manager, I'm going to urge the council to do this, he can certainly do it, but I don't think he should speak for the council on something the council has not weighed in on.
Thanks, everyone. I have a question. Just using Prop 36, which we brought forward tonight, how would that fall under public safety and emergency preparedness? That may be like the only category I might want to expand a little. I just want to make sure, like, how would that fall in?
I'm less concerned. Well, I don't know the details of Prop 36.
Oh, yeah,
maybe the city manager can.
It's a public safety measure.
Right, but if you look at it,
It would be number 10.
resources in local 30, but retail crime, it was broader than retail.
Prop 36 would fall in that, but it also picks up a lot more than
I just want to know, do
retail
we
crime.
need to be broader for public safety? Does it have to say retail crime? Can't it just say for the abatement of crime? Like, why are we focused on just retail crime? That's the only one, as I'm thinking about
Yeah,
it.
just take out the word
I think
retail.
that would
I would-
simplify it and
I-
make it a
broader.
bigger umbrella for the council
Yeah.
to work under.
So if
And
we-
would match, I think, council's express preferences.
Great, so if there's support, I'd like to take out retail. And then, or just keep
take
it
it out.
crime. I think, again, I don't think we need to do the league thing. I think that'll take too much time. The only thing I worry about, and I think I brought this up on my one-on-one, sometimes we get asked so last minute, can someone write a letter? It happens like all the time. The county, the state. And I agree, like, you don't want to speak on behalf of the council, but then I guess my question is, if we have this, can the mayor write a letter based on this without coming forward? Like, it's a little tricky, because we were asked to support something for the county, and I'm like, oh, it hasn't come to the council yet. Like, I think I'll just do it on my own, speaking or come speak publicly, whatever. But now that we have this legislative platform, how does, like, I'm looking for some clarification.
So many cities, but not the only option, but many cities, when they adopt a legislative platform, they do then empower the mayor to issue a letter without coming to the full council if the position statement opposed or support is squarely within the legislative platform. It's not the only requirement, but that's what many cities do because it does facilitate that much faster response to the
I'm
sausage-making
worried about
process
the
of the legislative
times that
platform.
we're asked so quickly, like for our next mayor. If he gets asked something so quickly that falls under this, wouldn't we want it to come from the whole city? Like here we have this legislative platform and that, or do we say this letter is going to go out, who wants to sign on to it? Like what, I mean, I just want to make sure we're utilizing this as a tool. I'm hearing both things, so I'm just kind of looking for a discussion.
There's some options.
I'm going to make a quick comment. So my remark regarding the mayor and having the mayor speak for the council, I'm going to refine that because what I was really referring to was exactly what you brought up. I had sent to you a couple items for you to consider to support written letters, not a proclamation or a resolution of any kind. So I would like to see the mayor be able to do that, but it's tricky. You know, we're going to have to.
But couldn't it also be if something comes forward, like a letter is going out, who wants to sign on to it? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what we're doing with this if we're not going to use it.
Well, on some level, that could be a Brown Act violation, I think, depending on what the letter subject matter is. If it's probably a state proposition, it wouldn't necessarily be, but on some other things that are within our power, I think it could be. Because you're not just going to say, do you want to sign this? It's going to be more like, I'm signing it, I'm in agreement with it here, and then it goes passed along, and it seems like there could be potential violations. Matt?
There's certainly some risk of that front, especially if it starts to turn into a conversation of editing the letter in order to get, well, I'll sign it, but if you change this paragraph, and then the next person, well, you got to change that paragraph, then I'll sign it. So that goes back to, like I said, many cities use legislative platform to expedite that kind of process, empowering the mayor. But I know it's not the only choice.
No, I would like if there's a time frame where something can't come back from the council, I would like to empower the mayor, if it falls under our legislative platform, to sign something.
I'm okay with that because it's limited.
Limited, not if it's like one of those, like the county, Measure G, like they were looking for support.
Well, but see, that's not a good idea because Measure G has several different facets to it. But if that's what it's going to be, some mayor might say, okay, I'm signing Measure G and this is the council's position.
But I don't
I'm not saying I'm opposed to Measure G, but it's got many different things in it.
But maybe Measure G wouldn't be in here, actually.
Well, then that was the example you used.
So that'd be, so then so I wasn't really thinking, but that wouldn't even, Measure G would not fall under this, even though I know there's probably support for it. It wouldn't fall under our platform.
But see now, except now you're asking the mayor to interpret whether it falls in the platform.
No, that's a bad example. So that would be an instance where the mayor would have to write something on their own. They wouldn't be able to speak on behalf of the council. Prop 36, let's say. Or give me an example.
Well, even Prop 36 is like, there's differing opinions on that. I mean, we happen to all unanimously support it tonight, but...
Or give me a bill. Just give an example. Where it would...
Okay, the homeless bill. Proposition A. Was it A? A. Measure A, sorry. Yes, that will give us more money to tackle homelessness, but then...
I don't think it's not on here.
It's a tax. Well, but it is. If you interpret it as local revenue sources.
Where would it be?
Look in there. I saw one that it looked like it would fall under. Where was it?
I don't think it's in here.
Even just discussing or interpreting the potential interpretation is problematic, I think. And all due respect, Mike, I agree with James. The comments are. Sorry?
Go ahead.
Yes?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Are concerning of the makeup of council can change, will change eventually. And this is a general document, a start. And we can use our good common sense when we vote on committees. And when it comes to a comment, the letter or request, hopefully they're not all last minute. There's time for council to communicate or consider, can we support this? And then yes, you go ahead. My concern is you get, as James mentioned, you get someone on here who has a totally different view than all five of us. And they have the authority to interpret it. Then it becomes a problem.
I'll give you an example.
No, this is so tight because basically the two examples I've come up with wouldn't even allow the person to write a letter.
I found one.
Yeah, write a personal.
Any of the water bond measures that have come forward, if you look at environmental leadership.
Which number?
The very first.
2. So if you look at that, a water bond measure on the one hand satisfies 2, but on the other hand, there's going to be a lot of opposition to having to borrow money and go into debt to do it. So the mayor is going to have to make a judgment call that I think the council should make.
Right.
That's all.
Individual letters.
I mean, if it's a really last minute, I think wasn't there one about, I signed one about, I think, anti-Asian or anti-Semitic conduct or something. Do you guys remember that? I was asked to sign it.
Yes.
There was no council meeting, and I didn't want to say no.
Right.
I don't think that's a problem. But
Individual letters, fine.
Right.
The only thing I'd like to change is get rid of retail to crime. I'm good with everything
okay,
else.
but I did have one question on something you said. You said you didn't want to do the thing with the league, but all I was saying was the league prepares a monthly report. It's not, we don't have to do anything.
Oh, no, I read it every month.
Yeah, I get it.
So can that just be given to us?
Yeah, I thought it was to bring it to council for discussion.
No.
Oh, no, Don't we all get it? We get it all from Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys
sorry,
get
I
it all.
thought it was like to come to council every month and
No.
to discuss. What were you looking for, Michael?
My interpretation of that proposal was that it would replace, in lieu of the legislative platform, that would be the process in which the council reviews
no.
legislation.
No.
But I'm happy to just simply send that or have staff send that via email on a monthly basis.
But what I'm hearing, I think council already receives that from the league directly. Is that correct?
Yes, and each council member should sign up for it if they don't, when we get a new council member.
I get the same thing from Contract Cities, so I got it actually yesterday. So I get the whole list, and I could forward it to Michael.
And I get from SCAG, the Legislative Committee, we have, early on, we track bills all the way through. I share the information as if something is important. And VICA is more of a political organization. We may not want that from, but they provide it as well, their opinions.
Michael, are you getting the email from Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so we're covered on that. Okay, great. Do you have what you need from us?
If I can go over it just one more
Yeah.
time. So the items that were proposed for majority support, high level, reviewing every 2 years, the draft legislative platform as is, council members have the authority that's granted to them via their appointment, and no to the mayor and the city manager making a determination on whether something fits within the legislative platform or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all the direction I need.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now it's still Michael's turn. We are going to discussion on the procurement of grant writing lobbyist services, and Michael's still here to present the report.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. So this is also a future agenda items prioritization listing. It's in the Group A category. As we all know, local municipal agencies, they frequently utilize professional grant writers and lobbyists to secure funding and navigating the complexities of grant applications and the legislative process of accessing both state and federal funds. So the city does not currently use an external writing or lobbyist services when seeking grants. And if in doing so, this would assist staff in identifying funding sources not known to the city and better provide us or put us in a position to receive these state budget allocations. So During these same one-on-one meetings that we had for the legislative platform, the council members were asked if they were in support of seeking such services and if they were in support of utilizing some type of city funding, general funds and or reserves, to engage in a professional services agreement. The two items on the staff report were supported by the majority of council during these one-on-one conversations. So in terms of the scope of work or what duties would be performed, they would focus on really building relationships with local, state, and federal partners to support various funding opportunities that would be advantageous to the city. So this would not serve an advocacy capacity for legislation. Again, really it would serve in a connection and expertise building function that, again, most other grant and lobbyist firms utilize. As it relates to funding, upfront and ongoing costs for the fiscal year 24-25 was authorized to be paid using general fund reserves. Staff is estimating that the upfront cost would be anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 for the entire fiscal year. So at this point, the City Council is being asked to provide direction, one, on if that funding amount is appropriate. We'll go out to RFP and we'll bring back the final approval for the City Council. But because this was an item also of maybe semantics as it relates to what's the difference between a lobbyist and a grant writer, I think I wanted to make clear to all 5 of the council that the purpose of this service would be to receive funds for the city again and not to advocate for certain legislation. So if that is not what any council members would want, I would also appreciate that direction and some comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'll start down here.
So you're reading my mind a little bit. So I think we all know the difference between legislative and grant writer. Mm-hmm. They're pretty significantly different. I don't think they're a combo. It's either one or the other. It's a separate entity or a separate profession. So it's obvious from other cities that grant writing really has proven to be very, very successful. And based on where we're at right now, I think we've got more to win than more to lose. And I'm very much supportive of having a grant writer. And let's see how that works. That's how I feel. And on the legislative side, we can review it next year. We can get some steam moving on the grant writing side, and then maybe that will bring in funds to support a legislative person. But I want to see some success, see some momentum first.
Great, thank you. David?
Great point, Ed. I don't want to sound like the naysayer because I'm always being careful. I am supportive of this, definitely agreeing with Councilmember Albrecht on the, and as you mentioned, the grant writing side of this. I am not in favor of us right now having a legislative analyst, and I know they can be combined, but I really, in this case, I'm looking at more of a grant specialist. I am also, being on the budget committee, and being very concerned as we've had our wonderful CEO give us reports that we have years to come of potential large projects that need to be done in the city, and that we at this point are still looking for ways to reach the opportunity to finance them. So whenever we're talking about large sums of money and ongoing sums, we have to find a way, how are we going to pay for it? Obviously, if we get grants and this is a successful endeavor, it pays for itself and then some. If we don't, we're looking at a large output of money. Also, I want to commend our staff. We had a report here tonight looking for a grant of $2.1 million just done by our staff. We had an opportunity provided to all of us through our U.S. Congresswoman's office that went through our public Curtis's Public Works Department, Curtis's department, and Curtis Castle, and they provided the application for that grant. We got $650,000, was that correct? So, our staff is capable, more than capable. And Erica's sitting here. I know she's beyond capable when it comes to grants. Michael, so I'm liking what our staff is doing in that regard. I am not opposed to it, to our city going forward with the grant writer, but I do think our staff has done a great job initially and can do an even better job. So those are my comments.
Thanks. Peter?
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad to see this in front of us tonight. Thank you for putting this together. I got to say, when I was campaigning for city council, not this term, but the last one, one of the things that I wanted to get here in our city was a grant writer. And my belief at the time was we needed an in-house individual hired by the city to find grants, because I thought if we hired a company that does grant writing, that they might be working for 20 different cities. And so if we filled out this application, we would only be getting 1/20th of the money as if we found it and filled it out ourselves. That was my belief at the time. I've had numerous conversations with our staff, with our city manager, with others in the industry. I know that we have talked a lot in the 4 years that I've been on council about getting a lobbyist. And I'm like, no, we don't want to deal with legislation. We want to get money in here. And then it was actually Kindon enlightened me on this. Thank you for that. A lot of the money that's out there doesn't come from grants. It comes from budget allocations. And so we look at some of the money that's shown up at our community center right now, and that wasn't a grant. That was a budget allocation. So some of these monies that are out there, they don't come from filling out an application. They come from having a relationship with the legislators who write them. And so when we have the title here, and it's not grant writer / legislative, it's grant writer / lobbyist. And the lobbyist portion is to build those relationships, to know what's coming, to get out ahead of these things. So that is essential that we keep that in there. But again, in the process of building these relationships, inevitably some legislative items are going to come up. So we're not going to prevent that. But yes, the primary goal here is to find sources of money, whether it's through a grant or through an allocation. The second thing that was brought to my attention, and something that I've changed my position on over the last year or so, is having an individual in-house, I thought would keep us isolated so that we're not sharing that information with others. But what I've learned is the vast amount of information that's out there is not something that one individual can actually get through, which is why we really do need an outside company. An outside company would have more resources to find all of the little nooks and crannies. And so I just want to share with you that my opinions on those have changed. I am fully in support of this. And as for the cost, I just want to say the outfall is $80,000 to $120,000 annually. And if this organization is not bringing in $80,000 to $120,000 worth of money every year, we've got the wrong organization. So even though it's shown here as a cost, I firmly believe that hiring a grant writer lobbyist would, within the course of 1 year, 2 at the least, at the worst, would pay for itself. So for those reasons, I'm very much in favor of this.
Great. Thank you. James?
Yes, through my contacts with other council members who are active in the League of California Cities and the California Contract Cities Association, many expressed surprise that we did not have these positions. There are many cities, in fact most, that have these positions, at least on retainer. And I think that everything Peter said was true in terms of paying for itself. If it's done right, this will pay for itself. I mean, one example that I've mentioned many times is the grant for the community center improvements that the city of Agoura Hills brought to us, because they had a grant writer and lobbyist, and that person identified $1 million federal grant that we ultimately got. And that was a very small scope of that person's work. It just a couple weeks of their work, we handed in the grant application, and then it got approved. and it was not expected. I mean, we didn't think we'd get it, but it was $1 million in just for that one grant. And to me, like Peter said, if they're not bringing in, many times more than this amount, then we just got the wrong person doing the job. So I would support getting, I support what's in the discussion and analysis regarding getting someone to do grant writing and lobbying on retainer.
Thank you, and I really appreciate this item coming forward. I'm very supportive of it. I think speaking at the COG meeting, other cities are always talking about how they get money, and a lot of it is coming from a lobbyist. I think there's just a lot of intermixing of that. I do want to compliment our staff for really stepping up over the last few years and securing a lot of funding. I think the best part about this agenda item is all we're giving the authority, the authorization, is to issue an RFQ. We can get the proposals and not like anything we see. So granted, it's going to take some of your time, but there's no financial risk. So I really am supportive. I want to see what comes back, and then we can go from there. I'll be interested to see how these firms position themselves, grant writer, lobbyist services. And I just think in the long run, we're going to end up getting way more than we put out on this. So I'm in support of it. Kendon, you want to say something?
If I could, Mayor, I just want to add to the comments, and thank you for doing this. This is something that unfortunately wasn't budgeted. Just as we were looking at, trying to make the budget work and have a positive balance at the end of the fiscal year, we didn't put this in. However, since then, we've heard over and over again the desire from council to pursue outside monies. And I think, Mayor, you hit it right on the head, is our staff, our different departments have done exceptionally well over the last few years of bringing in millions of dollars of funding. And that's with, community services, public works, emergency management. It's our community development has brought in money. Those are known sources that we tend to apply to each year or every funding cycle, and so we know that they're out there. What we're missing is that broader net that we're just unaware of, and that's where that partnership with an outside agency will help. And then, Mayor Pro Tem, you hit it spot on with your discussion about how the lobbyist works. As council is aware, last year we were able to secure $5 million for the purchase of open space. That was done through a lobbying firm. That wasn't done through a grant. That was a direct allocation of the budget, the state budget, that happened. And again, that money went to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and is still available for that land purchase. It's interesting as I've talked with different firms who are in the industry. We heard this year it was going to be very, very tight. Everything we heard from Sacramento is don't ask for anything because money's not available. All of the successful firms still brought in money to their partnering agencies. And so if we're not at the table and we're not at making those asks, we're going to be hearing like everybody else that there's not money available and we're going to miss out. Those firms or those cities that are pushing hard on this are still getting money even in years when Sacramento's not saying that there's money. So thank you for your support on this.
Thank you. May I have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Peter, then Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Good work. Okay. Does the council have any future requests for future agenda items? Ed?
I do. This is something that's a long time coming. I've had a lot of people ask me about this over the years, most recently last week, and I'd like us to have a discussion over the renaming of the Calabasas Senior Center. A more appropriate name, possibly removing the senior name. Seniors are 50 plus, and a lot of people feel that it's an older group that attends there, but it really isn't, and we can attract more people. Some people have called it an interpretive center. There's a lot of different choice for words, but it's a learning experience. So we had talked about it in great detail. I shouldn't say we talked about it. I was at this room when council was talking about it. I remember the vote, and there were a number of names offered. So just to have a discussion on it and see how people feel about it.
I'm looking to Kendon for direction on how you want to proceed with that item.
So, Mayor, that could be under a future agenda. So if there's a second, then we could put that out on the future agenda item list and come back as a discussion on.
I didn't know if you want a subcommittee to talk about it first or just come straight to council.
We could. That would be one excellent for the council task force.
Is that
on
okay with you
recreation.
if we start at a task force? Of course.
Can I just ask you, is this coming from, you said the seniors, did they have a list of recommended names they want to change it to?
Yes, there were a number of names, and this was when we were naming it. We had at least 7 or 8 names.
Right, I remember all that. But recently, has it come up again?
In conversations.
So we'll talk, staff can gather some more information, bring it to the subcommittee, and then we can come back to council. Is that good? Great. Okay. Any other future agenda items? Nope. Okay. Any task force reports?
I'll go real quick, sure. The Budget Committee met on the 30th. We were reviewing the Site Logic proposal and paths forward from there. More details to come. And I also attended our walk to school. I'm sure many of my fellow council members did. I got the privilege of walking to school with some of our students at A.E. Wright. And finally, like many of you, we all attended the ribbon cutting of Brandon's Village. That was actually the highlight of my week. Thank you.
Nice. James?
No, thank you.
Ed?
I enjoyed walk at school as well. It was really unique. I had done it at Chaparral Elementary, and that was just really a kick. And this year I did it at A.C. Stell, and it was just fantastic. So it's something I always look forward to. And on Friday at 10 o'clock, the Valley Economic Alliance is sponsoring a public safety walk. So if you see, it's starting at Pedler's Fork. So if anybody wants to join a walk, meet you at Pedler's Fork at 10 o'clock. That's my announcements.
Okay. David?
Thank you. The Sustainability Task Force meeting, committee met twice, not once, but twice in the last few weeks. And a lot of exciting opportunities that will be coming forward. We had a Mayor's Youth Council meeting. Attended the PFC at Bay Laurel with the mayor, and they really were appreciative of everything the city does for the schools and the students. I attended SCAG meetings and Valley Economic Alliance. And the one thing I forgot to do an announcement, so I apologize, I'll do it now with your permission, is wish everybody a Happy New Year who's celebrating Lashana Tova and a easy fast over Yom Kippur. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended a mayor's roundtable through the Economic Alliance with mayors from some of our surrounding cities, and that was a great opportunity. I also participated in Walk to School Day, and one of the students came up to me and asked if the city council could approve a college in Calabasas so he never had to leave Calabasas. So his mom walked up to me and said, "My son has a very important question for you." So that was very cute. As David mentioned, we attended a meeting at Bay Laurel, and they were so appreciative of everything the city's doing. So we said we'd bring that back. Especially, we talked about a bunch of important public safety issues, and they're really supportive of everything that we're doing. So that is it for me. Kendon, do you have a report?
Mayor, Council, just 3 items real quickly. First of all, as a follow-up to our flu clinic, a very successful event I know many of you attended. We had, let me get the numbers right here, we had 191 flu shots and 135 COVID shots that day. So just a good turnout and good representation from the community on that. Also, just this past Monday, I want to note that a private entity rented our plaza for a wonderful event on October 7th, just commemorating the loss and the tragedies that happened a year ago. And we appreciate the council for being there, but also wanted to thank our staff, the public works and public safety and community service staff, who did so much on the periphery to make sure that happened as it should have. And then finally, I just want to compliment our city clerk. Over the last couple months that she's been here, she's implemented a few changes. It doesn't sound big, but we're now using DocuSign, which speeds up our contract process huge. And one of the things that she's working on is an agenda management software that we won't see this roll out for a few more months just because of the backlog of the partnering agency, but it will drastically change just the efficiency of getting our agendas and out to the council and to the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will adjourn to our next meeting on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Thank you, everyone.